Who likes Creation Watch? Creation Watch is something I've been doing for a while now. It's basically a new endeavor for 2022. I expanded basically on CONSERVAPEDIA and focused on a lot of apologists, but not all young Earth creationists are necessarily just religious apologists. Some of them have some other ideas. Some of them are Holocaust deniers. Yeah, it's terrible. Some of them are not these guys popping up on the screen. I'm not accusing anybody that's popping up on the screen over here of being a Holocaust denier. I'm not saying that Ken Ham is a Holocaust denier or anything, but some young Earth creationists are. Some young Earth creationists are flat earthers. They believe that the earth is flat and that the Bible proves that. And if you read the Bible literally, it talks about it being flat. Some flat earthers, some young Earth creationists are dinosaur deniers. They think that dinosaurs didn't exist at all, that there were no dinosaurs in the fossil record, that it's all fabricated and fake. Today's exploration into Creation Watch is all three of the things I just mentioned. Holocaust denier, flat earther, dinosaur denier, and young Earth creationist. We are, of course, looking at none other than Mr. Eric Dubay and his absolutely bizarre little video that he put together about dinosaurs not being real. Who is ready to explore the claims of Mr. Eric Dubay? Let us begin.
For savvy supporters helping scour the Internet Archive, we have now found and can present Robin Kofid's article, The Dinosaurs Never Existed, from his deleted GVE News website. If anyone watching this has not already seen my more comprehensive and conclusive documentary, Evolution and Dinosaurs Debunked, please stop this video and watch that one first.
We will not be watching that one, at least not today. It is like an hour long. I did not have time to weed through it. I barely had time to brush over this one. We may revisit Eric Dubay in the future, and that might be one of the videos, or he might say something else crazy that we have to delve into. But yeah, we will not be watching that one today.
Link in the description box. In this video, I will reveal one of the greatest hoaxes in human history. But first, a short explanation of what we're dealing with. Paleontology, the study of the origin and development of life. Paleontology is the study of life's formation and development. The paleontological scientific approach is explained on Wikipedia as follows. Quote, when attempting to explain earlier phenomena, paleontologists and other scientists of history construct a set of hypotheses addressing the causes and then look for a smoking gun, a piece of evidence that indicates that one hypothesis is a better explanation than others. Sometimes the smoking gun is discovered by happy coincidence during another investigation. This explanation...
I don't understand why because he had certain words in caps lock. He had constructs, hypothesis, indicates, happy coincidence, all in caps lock here. I think that he may be making some implications here about these terms. In other scientists' history of constructs, a set of hypotheses addressing the cause and then look for a smoking. Using the term smoking gun is kind of hyperbolic here, but I'm going to go on and see what he has to say.
Another investigation. This explanation is entirely consistent with the way paleontology works in practice, but it should be obvious to anyone capable of critical thinking that the paleontological establishment can control which hypotheses will be constructed. This is done...
Actually, no, Eric. The evidence controls which hypothesis is accepted, and no one science. That's why the peer review process is so wonderful, because no one scientist gets to say, I've confirmed this and it's now truth. No, people go through it again and again and again and look at the same evidence over and over again, and different researchers, sometimes in different fields, look at the same evidence, and when they come to the same conclusion, that is when we start talking about this being an accepted scientific understanding.
Through textbooks and the curriculum. In this way, students are brainwashed into a pseudo-reality
No, we look at the evidence and present the evidence to the public in the best way possible. Dubay speaks in ellipses. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That is, I agree 100%. No, Dubay does have a good speaking voice for the most part. He maybe better than mine. I don't know, but yeah, he's got a pleasant voice. I think that's part of his appeal. He speaks really just plain and flat and understandable.
Controlled by the text material and the teacher's authority. A short practical example. A random dental bone is found at an excavation site, and from this dental bone, the rest of the skeleton is guessed at. We are not kidding about this. The entire dinosaurian field of the paleontological program.
All right, now that's a kind of a straw man about this. Teeth are highly diagnostic. Sometimes you can't even tell what an organism is unless you have its teeth, because teeth are what we decide what an animal's ecology was like, what its habitat was like, what the even what the environment that it lived in was like. Different teeth, we can tell what if it was, if it was a predator, whether it was eating vertebrates, whether it was eating invertebrates. If it was a herbivore, we can tell what kind of leaves, or whether it was a frugivore, browser. From the teeth, we can tell so much from the teeth. And some organisms are known only from teeth, but we can take the teeth of the unknown organism and compare it to other organisms on the tree of life, the bush of life, the web of life, and make an assessment of where it falls and what its other features might have looked like, what they might have, what physiological features might have been present on this organism. Sometimes that's really good. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to go back and correct things. Look at the Spinosaurus. We know where it falls, what clade it's related to, and we build our reconstructions based on those. You get the baryonyx that we look at when we're reconstructing Spinosaur, for instance. But as we move along, we because we have a more complete skeleton of the baryonyx, as we move along and learn more about the Spinosaur, we learn that it had different physical features that the baryonyx didn't have, and we adjust our models as such. And that's the way that the science works. It always is getting better and honing in and sharper, finding new information. It's not just throwing out BS because that's what they want you to believe.
Is a sham. It was the English paleontologist Richard Owen who in 1842 coined the term dinosaur. The phenomenon was then gradually promoted in the mainstream press all over the world, which told of these dinosaur creatures, including the Danish press. In 1854, a few years after the word dinosaur was invented and the concept presented in popular articles in the...
I thought it was the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes. Did they change it? And the Flintstones, wasn't it Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes? It's been a long time since I've seen the Flintstones, but that's what I remember.
Biggest American newspapers, the first dinosaur was discovered in North America by fossil hunter Ferdinand Vanderveer Hayden. There had been no reported discoveries of even a single dinosaur bone in North America prior to 1854, but that didn't stop the paleontologists. In the following period, finding dinosaur bones suddenly became a popular pastime. North America became home to the most ferocious and was a true wonderland to dinosaur bone hunters. According to The Dinosaur Project, a book by paleontological dig journalist Wayne Brady, the ensuing dinosaur rush in North America after 1854 was a mecca for dinosaur bone fraud. The book describes the year...
That's not wrong, and there was sabotage. The Bone Wars was awful, but we did learn a lot about how to find these fossils. That was the main point. That was the main takeaway. By Repo Sandman. I don't know why I was having trouble with that. Have a good day. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit on this because, let's see, 1.5 maybe. Let's see how that sounds.
Years from 1870 to 1880 as a period in North America where, quote, some of the most underhanded shenanigans in the history of science were conducted.
True.
This decade has since been dubbed Bone Wars, when the notorious Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh fought each other in their quest to find the most interesting dinosaurs. Most people believe that dinosaur skeletons displayed in museums consist of real dinosaur bones.
Do most people believe that? I've known since I was a little kid, since I was a child, that what you see on the displays are casts of the actual bones, and that the bones are safely stored away where they can be studied by actual scientists who who know a little bit about biology of organisms.
This is not the case. Paleontologist, advisor for Steven Spielberg in the making of Jurassic Park, host of the Discovery Channel's documentaries about dinosaurs, Don Lessem, defends this practice by claiming that dinosaur bones are too rare to put on display. Quote, in museums...
Now, to be clear, there are places where you can see the actual fossils. There's actual fossils that are on display. In most museums, they have at least a few that are real, and they're usually behind glass to protect them, or in a display case. That's usually just one bone. They don't rebuild the whole model, because real fossils are very heavy, and they cannot reconstruct. Generally speaking, you cannot build the entire dinosaur's bones from the rocks, because remember, fossils are rocks. You don't build large, delicate structures from rocks to stand upright and put on display like what we see here. So obviously, we have to use cast and different materials that can hold up to being put on displays like this. This is a completely ridiculous argument. The logistics of actually putting rocks together in these formations, I can't even understand how Eric would think that is possible.
Bones are cleaned and cast, and the copies attached to one another to make skeletons. The real bone is too rare to put out on display. The real bones are incarcerated in thick vaults to which only a few select, highly placed researchers hold a key, which means that no independent researcher has ever handled a Tyrannosaurus rex bone.
Do you not realize that there are Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons, entire skeletons of Tyrannosaurus rexes, that are in private collections? There are so many dinosaur bones in private collections that are not being researched by these elite scientists that you believe are keeping secrets from you. These are actually owned by people in their own homes. Rich people buy all kinds of crazy stuff. Nicolas Cage has I think a Triceratops skull. So yeah, people can and do have access to real dinosaur bones. And if you're a university student, sometimes you can get access to real dinosaur bones through your university or other fossil evidence.
When people unaffiliated with the paleontological establishment attempt to gain access in order to study these dinosaur bones, they are met with refusal upon refusal. The world of movies and paleontology...
Okay, so yeah, again, no, you are totally wrong there. It's not, there's no elite access to dinosaur bones. People have dinosaur bones in their private collections. People have dinosaur sites on their property that are private and you can't go into, where they have magnificent fossils that we'll never be able to study because they're privately owned on privately owned land.
Are like Siamese twins. People's view on the existence of dinosaurs is based not on firm evidence, but on Hollywood-fixated artistic impressions. Documentaries colorfully illustrate each dinosaur's characteristics like colors, weight, and muscle mass, but...
It's okay to get mad at paleo art. Sometimes I get mad at paleo art too. I'm like, what are they thinking creating this image of Peterson's what I think of with his pterosaurs? But yeah, I agree. The paleo art can kind of suck it sometimes. Sometimes it's amazing, but sometimes they can suck it.
Don Lessem admits that this is pure guesswork. Consider, for instance, the question of how much these dinosaurs weigh. Says Don Lessem, quote, "Scientists don't know how much dinosaurs weighed. They don't like to make those estimates because they don't have enough information, but everyone wants them to guess." Overall, several millions of dollars have been spent promoting the existence of dinosaurs through movies, TV, magazines, and comics. And
we have recalculated things like how much dinosaurs weighed based on studying their anatomy and their physiology. We know that dinosaurs were lighter for their body mass because of their hollow bones. And not just hollow, their bones are much lighter because of the way that they breathe, because of the way that their lungs are run through their entire body. Yeah, we know that dinosaurs were light, much lighter than like, say, a mammal of similar size.
The Land Before Time, Jurassic Park, BBC's various dinosaur documentaries, etc. National Geographic, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. News Corp also owns 20th Century Fox, the makers of the Ice Age franchise. Universal Studios, who made Jurassic Park and The Land Before Time. These productions are owned by Comcast, whose main shareholders include J.P. Morgan and the Rothschild-owned investment company Vanguard.
Ooh, are we going to get into some anti-Semitism about dinosaurs? Weird flex, but let's see where you go.
Discovery Channel is owned by Discovery Communications, who also distribute BBC's TV shows, and M. Rothschild & Sons Limited are financial advisors to Discovery Communications. According to Don Lessem, it is not unthinkable to assume that only around 2,100 dinosaur bone sets have been discovered worldwide, and out of these, only 15 incomplete Tyrannosaurus rex bone sets have been found. These dinosaur bone sets have never formed a complete skeleton, But from these incomplete bone sets, paleontologists
We have some pretty complete. There are species. He's going to make a claim here that there's never been a complete dinosaur skeleton, which is totally bunk. But when it comes to Tyrannosaurus Rex, we have a lot of complete skeletons, or near complete skeletons, and skeletons that we can use each other to help fill in the gaps. Say that this specimen's missing an arm, and this other specimen's got both its arms, but it's missing its tail. We can use those two to create a complete creature, and that's how science works. That's how studying paleontology works.
have constructed a hypothesis about the appearance of the whole skeleton, which they have then modeled in plastic. If thousands of long necks and large carnivorous reptiles had really roamed Earth, we wouldn't only have found 2,100 dinosaur bone sets, but millions of bones, with ordinary people tripping over them when digging in their vegetable patch.
Do you not know how rare the fossilization process is? It's not something that you're going to just find fossils everywhere. They have to be the animal has to have died in certain conditions. They have to have decomposed under certain conditions. They had to spend the millions of years from when they died till now under specific conditions just to be able to have even a fragmentary remains for us to investigate. So yeah, no, we're not. You're not making the case you think you are here, Eric.
Patches. Discoveries seem not to be made by disinterested people like farmers, hikers, military personnel, miners, construction workers building cellars or laying down pipes, but rather by people with a special interest, like paleontologists, scientists, university professors, and museum employees.
False. Also false. Children have found novel species of dinosaurs while digging. Children, farmers find dinosaurs all the time, and other prehistoric organisms when they're tilling their fields. So yeah, that's totally bunk. Prospectors have found fossils. Miners have found fossils. I'm sorry, Eric, but everything you're saying is false.
Or actively seeking dinosaur bones, or who have studied dinosaurs previously. Discoveries are often made in connection with special dinosaur bone hunting trips and expeditions. The following quotes are from an article from the Natural History Museum in the state of Wisconsin in the USA. The article is called A Fossils Trail from Excavation to Exhibit, and covers the conservation of fossils and bones. It is written by former bone and fossil inspector for Milwaukee Public Museum, Rolf Johnson. GVE News has tracked Rolf Johnson to his current position as paleontological head of education for the state of Virginia.
In these memes, he's popping up about the oil. It's kind of I think it's cute. It's funny, but the oil is generally mostly remains of Carboniferous, which was well before dinosaurs. Plant matter for the most part. Same with coal. They're all these fossil fuels, which are called fossil fuels because they are remains of organisms, and again, mostly plants that have broken down and turned into what we can burn today.
Attempt has since been made to remove the article from the internet, but GVE News has discovered an exact copy of the online version, which also exists in print. Quote, most of the curious visitors are only dimly aware of the road taken by paleontologists in their search through the fossil record. In the article, Rolf Johnson tells of his first day of working with these bones. Quote, my romantic image had to be slightly modified when I finally saw the crates full of crumbled...
See, things like this, there are definitely paleo artists that would look at this skeleton and say, yeah, it looks like this one here, but scientists who actually understand the way that muscle attachments work and things like that, and what sort of flesh was attached to this bone? Was it muscle? Was it fat? Was there fat storage here on the body? Things like that. We absolutely can do. So there will be reconstructions of rabbits, yes, from paleo artists that look like the middle image there. But for someone looking at the skull and seeing how the muscle attachments for the ears, they could probably come up with a more erect ear for this organism.
Bulling and broken bones, each one wrapped in a protective plastic field jacket, the whole lot looking like so many arms and legs from a broken bone seminar. Like many people, I was naive regarding what a fossil might look like, or what state it might be in prior to seeing it in the theatrical setting of painted murals and museum exhibits. Fossil vertebrate remains are generally broken, often crushed and distorted, fragmentary, and usually incomplete.
Right, it's been under the ground for tens of millions of years. It's not going to come out looking like a museum display. Sorry if that burst your preconceptions, or the author of the what you're reading here is preconception. But yeah, anybody who has a cursorial interest in paleontology understands that the fossils are usually the bones are usually broken and fragmentary, and they have to be pieced back together to form the organism. You get an idea what the organism looked like.
He continues, "It is truly the uncommon or rare specimen that is exhibit quality. Through mold making and casting, we can totally fabricate limbs, ribs, vertebrae, etc. for the missing pieces of an articulated skeletal mount. Plaster, fiberglass, and epoxies are often and commonly used. In reconstruction work on single bones, small to large cracks can be filled in with mache or plaster mixed with dextrin, a starch that imparts an adhesive quality and extra hardness to regular molding plaster. We've also had success using epoxy putties. Large missing fragments can be sculpted directly in place with these same materials. If one conducts a simple Google search for dinosaur and bones, the result numbers several thousand websites. Pictures from museums of large, beautiful dinosaur skeletons appear in brownish red and sometimes snow-white colors, with a touch of having been buried in the ground for decades. But if one were to change direction and...
It's artistic. So his main gripe so far has been that the dinosaur displays in the museum are cast of the actual fossils. That's been his main gripe here, which is kind of funny because to me, making it to adulthood without realizing that the museum displays are not going to be made out of rocks, because they need to be light enough to build a sculpture like with a thin and fragile sculpture like this without any inherent risk. Having rocks built like this would be just asinine. So I'm sorry that this crushed your interpretation that the dinosaur displays at the museum were the actual bones themselves, Eric. I'm sorry that happened to you. That does not mean that the bones don't actually exist.
Search instead for information about dinosaur replica bones, the results would have a markedly different character. Semi-professional and professional fossil and bone manufacturers talk openly about the ease with which these fakes are produced. Check out, for example...
Right, yeah. They're not fakes, they're reconstructions. Not fakes. Fakes would mean they were fabricated. We have the actual bone. So once there's a cast made of a bone, yeah, if you can get access to that cast, you can make your own. You can make it out of rubber. You can make it out of steel. You can make it out of concrete. You can make your own dinosaur bones out of whatever you want. Once you have a mold for it, once you have a cast.
www.trexskulls.com, where all manner of fake bones can be ordered. Or look at www.dinosaurcorporation.com/dinosaurskulls.html, where even more can be found. In 1999, National Geographic magazine was busted when they presented, in a colorful and fancily presented article, The Missing Link, an Archaeoraptor dinosaur, which was supposed to support the basic tenet of evolutionary theory, that dinosaurs had slowly developed over millions of years. Their proof consisted of a fossil, where carefully arranged bone imprints gave the impression of a creature half dinosaur and half bird. The scam was discovered during a CT scan, which uncovered unnatural bone links. National Geographic magazine was later forced to admit, when pressured, that the fossil was man-made.
They were lied to, and
the fake ichthyosaur dinosaur hung in the hall of the National Museum of...
So, with the Archaeoraptor, okay, I just want to nip this in the bud right now. They were lied to by the seller, a private collector, which you said don't exist. A private dinosaur bone owner. You said the private sector didn't have access to those. But it did, and an Archaeoraptor came from the private sector, and it was a forgery. And the scientist who looked at the claims said it was a forgery. And they told National Geographic that it was a forgery. The scientists, the people who actually do the research, said this is fake. This is it's actually, but it led to Microraptor, which is an amazing organism in and of itself. But the National Geographic, they can, they made their mistake, and they can eat that because the scientists told them that it was not real. Let's see, he's talking about a fake ichthyosaur, which is not a dinosaur at all, by the way, Eric. This is a marine reptile. Go on, though.
Whales. In spite of more than 100 years of revolutions in the field of paleontology, the museum finally came clean after criticism from independent researchers, thanks to the internet, who had publicly revealed that the fossil, which had supposedly been found in 1809, was man-made. It had previously, in 1884, graced the home of a very rich businessman. Hadrosaurus folki, or simply Hadrosaurus, was the first...
Once again, with the ichthyosaur, it was in a private collection. a private collection. It's funny how all these hoaxes seem to arise in private collections where the provenances are not known for the fossils. But yet you at the beginning of this video claimed that the private sector did not have access to dinosaur bones or did not find dinosaur bones. So you can't have your cake and eat it too, Eric.
First dinosaur to be publicly displayed. It is also an official symbol of the state of New Jersey. What few Americans are aware of, however, is that its skull caused big problems for the museum director and the leading paleontologists, because there was no skull. The skull being the main evidence for the existence of this creature.
No, just not having the skull does not negate the existence of the rest of the bones and the rest of the animal's anatomy that we found. And yeah, there was a piece of the skull of this hadrosaur found, but anyway.
A visual and a sculptural artist were promptly hired to invent a skull, and from the illustrations of another artist who had depicted the iguanodon, the two artists drew the same face for the Hadrosaurus falki. The people involved could now technically defend the existence of this dinosaur. If someone were to ask,
because it exists, because we found its bones, Eric. Just because the skull reconstruction is speculative does not mean that the organism doesn't exist.
The stunt worked out so well and fooled the public so thoroughly that they could later...
Nobody was fooled. I'm sure if you ask your tour guide when you go to this museum, Eric, about the skull, they'll say, yeah, the skull was reproduced based on the iguanodon, the closely related iguanodon skull, because we did not have a skull example of this organism, and this was a close relative which we based it upon. I'm sure they would tell you that, Eric.
Change the head of the creature to that of both the Gripposaurus and the Brachioposaurus without anyone noticing. By complicating the constructed hypothesis process, the paleontological approach, no one would dare question the paleontologist's technical knowledge. To this day, Hadrosaurus falki is on display at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia.
Go to the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia and ask them about it. I'm sure they're not keeping it a secret from you, Eric. A lot of fossils, like I was talking about the Spinosaurus before, we base them on the anatomy of their close relatives when we don't know about what a missing particular piece of bone looked like. This is not nefarious. It's not this underground mission that they're on to fool the world into thinking dinosaurs existed. It's that fossil preservation is rare, and how much of an organism is preserved is usually less than the entire skeleton. Usually it's fragmentary. So yeah.
The bones are said to be kept behind heavy closed doors, but a plaster copy is exhibited in their place.
Right.
China is a major producer of bones and fossils. Zhejiang Dino Ocean Art.
And a major producer of hoaxes too, because the private collectors, like I said before.
Art Company Limited, in the state of Sichuan, is a major supplier to the natural history museums all over the world. On its website, the firm writes, over 62% of our output goes to American and European markets, which means we will understand and are familiar with the intricacies and regulation of exporting to these regions. Since we are a partner of dinosaur museums, so all products are made under the guidance of experts of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. We have gained a global sales network reaching the USA, Brazil, France, Poland, Russia, Germany, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, etc., exhibited in Peru, Argentina, Vancouver, Cincinnati, Chicago, and other places.
Do you have a point here, Eric? Yeah, there's great fossil formations in China with great preservation. There are in the western United States, too. A lot of stuff comes out of there.
General instructions for the process of manufacturing fossils can be found online. Chicken, frog, dog, cat, horse, and pig's bones are used as fossil materials. The bones are crushed and mixed with glue, resin, and plaster, and can then, if desired, be glued to a plate. Fractures in the fossil give it a natural look. These fractures are purposefully made and then repaired repeatedly to achieve the right effect. Even professors of paleontology have started to wonder. Alan Fiducia, professor of paleontology.
It's Fiducia, Eric. It's Fiducia, but you're going to get into Alan. Okay, so here's Alan Fiducia. Alan Fiducia is not... The young Earth people tend to think that he's like on their team. He's a real scientist. He's a ornithologist, mainly focusing on bird studies. But his claim is that archosaurs, that we call dinosaurs, should be separate from the archosaurs, or from the archosaurs that we call theropods. That theropods should be removed from Dinosauria and put into their own clade. That is Fiducia's argument. It's not. He thinks that, or his claim is that the rest of Dinosauria and theropods are separate clades. It's not the argument that they think it is. Fiducia's not saying what most creationists think he's saying. Again, I don't agree with what he is actually saying, but I also don't agree with the straw man of what Eric and other creationists would say that he's saying.
At the University of North Carolina stated, I have heard there is a fake fossil factory in northeast China, in Liaoning province, near the deposits where many of these recent alleged feather dinosaurs were found. In conclusion, 1. A complete dinosaur skeleton has never been found. 2.
False. Complete dinosaur skeletons have been found. Multiple complete dinosaur specimens have been found.
Independent researcher has seen a real dinosaur skull. 3. The paleontological scientific approach is built on hypotheses, while it is presented as natural.
All science is built on hypotheses, and then you test your hypotheses to find out the truth, Eric.
Science with an objective approach. 4. Children are taught the existence of dinosaurs through cartoons, not through bone inspection at school. 5. Only people with a special
I wish there was a bone inspection class at school.
interest in the paleontological field seem to find dinosaur bones.
Also false. Farmers, miners, construction workers all find dinosaur bones.
Dinosaurs are yet another fictitious reality, exactly like the self-invented psychiatric diagnoses. This all
Oh hell, that's some ableism right there. Psychiatric diagnoses. No, talk to your doctor if you're having psychiatric issues, if you're struggling. Do not listen to Eric Dubay. Talk to your doctor instead.
leaves us with numerous fundamental questions.
All right, so that was Eric Dubay's Dinosaurs Never Existed video. I hope that was enjoyable.
Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, so that they may come into the land of Egypt and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought up an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind had brought up the locusts. The locusts came up all over the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. Such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been seen before, nor ever will be seen again. They covered the face of the whole land, so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Not a green thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field throughout the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh hastily called upon Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now, therefore, forgive my sin, please, only this once, and plead with the Lord your God only to remove this death from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the rocks and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go.